We have seen in the past that similar cases of economic crisis have increased the number of people with mental health issues, leading to high rates of suicide, for example, due to the mental health condition or the substance abuse, for example. We have, for example, some surveys that were done nationally in a few countries showing an increase of prevalence of distress of 35% of the population surveyed in China, 60% in Iran, 45% in the US. We need to make sure that measures are there to protect and promote and care for existing situation right now. This is something that needs to be done in the middle of the crisis so that we can prevent things to become worse in the near future. We can prevent the numbers to become the ones that we see in emergencies that we have seen in the past. There are some surveys that were done in Canada where 47% of healthcare workers reported need for psychological support. 47%, it's almost half of them. In China, we have different figures for depression, 50%, anxiety, 45%, insomnia, 34%. Pakistan also 42% to 26% of different distress. So the numbers are there, and these are just preliminary, we know.
In all emergencies, not only in COVID, there is a risk of human rights violations in long-term facilities. There is risk also of neglect in emergency situations in these facilities, and there is risk also in situations of disease outbreaks, of pandemic, of exposure of staff and residents to infections. In conflict situations, in humanitarian settings, the needs for mental health and psychosocial support, even before COVID, were huge. 1 in 5 people in this situation would need mental health and psychosocial support because they would have a mental health conditions. Yemen is not only the world's largest humanitarian crisis, it's also one of the world's largest mental health crises, with more than 7 million people who need mental health support. In a place like South Sudan, while 1 in 5 people would have a mental health condition, in South Sudan there is only 1 mental health professional for every 4 million people, which basically means someone living in the north of South Sudan, in a city like Malakal, need to take a trip to Juba, to the capital, of 2,000 miles that take him 30 hours to reach the only available service.